Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a great one for you this morning, but I must say you better have a strong stomach because wah, 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 the prices are down and it looks like we're going into a long holiday weekend with everything into the red. You know, we're going to talk about XRP price update, the price is up and the price is down that we need to be thinking about. Facebook Diem update for you. Did you know Flare is launching next month in case you didn't know? Let's keep that on the table. Cardano announces a first testnet for smart contracts. We'll talk about it. China cracking down on crypto mining. Something just doesn't even feel right about that sentence, but we'll talk about that too. Julia Chatterley and Michael Saylor. There's an important couple minutes there in that interview that we need to take a look at. White House is reviewing crypto, which is amazing that the White House is even speaking on crypto. Jeremy Hogan and Ripple Fair Notice Defense. We're going to hear from him. And the SEC is now going after Ripple and their lobbying efforts in Congress. Where does all of this end? I don't know, but let's go ahead and roll that beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackUpBradleyAbove and everything that we're talking about here today. Don't forget about unstoppable domains. They are unstoppable. Get your .crypto there today. Let's talk about these numbers real quick. 1.5 trillion plus. Ladies and gentlemen, almost $200 billion is missing from yesterday to today. How about that one? Take a second, and then you don't have to wonder too much why the market is down. It is a sea of red out here today. Currently, everything falling like a manhole cover from the sky. Bitcoin now at 35,000, just over, and we're off 11.37% on a 24-hour and down 13.83 on the 7-day. Ethereum off of the 4,000 plus high. We now are down to $2,425.80, off by 14.29%. on the 24-hour, 9.72 on the 7-day. Coming down here, Cardano now down to 145, off by 16.64 on the 24-hour and off by 14.85 on the 7-day. XRP at the number 6 spot, courtesy of the dereliction of duty and intimidation tactics by the SEC. We are at 85 cents this morning, and believe me, I'm not happy about it either, but this is a range and support level that we have talked about before yesterday, as early as yesterday. We're going to talk about it again today too. But right now we're sitting off 16.78% on the 24-hour and off by 24.46% on the 7-day. How about that? And I tell you, we're still performing pretty strongly, to be honest with you, with an SEC case hanging over our head. And we got a lot to talk about that in just a second. But currently ranging between 85.39 on the low side and $1.03, 103.13 on the high side. We're sitting at 85.77 this morning. So we need to see some price action, but not in the way that the price is rolling off. If you'll remember, I reminded everybody yesterday that the longer the price was sitting at $1 or just sitting at one place, the more of a chance you have to see the price roll over and head back down again. And it looks and appears that that is exactly what we've seen here. And we will talk about the support levels to pay attention to before we get out of here today. Let's talk about this right now, because this is shout out to Jeremy Hogan and Legal Briefs. Lots of people asking if the SEC attorney withdrawing from the case means anything. And what he's referencing here is the post that I made yesterday. And shout out to Jeremy's. SEC attorney moves to withdraw from Ripple case. And of course, there was a lot of speculation about that, like good riddance. And people were like, well, I don't blame them, and all of these things. But the reality is I think it's very likely not, as Jeremy Hogan says. The lawyer has probably accepted a much more lucrative position at a big New York defense firm, just like the career progression of half of Ripple's defense team. And I think that's well said right there. Until we know any different, it is not related to the SEC versus Ripple case. So this is just a reminder right here. Did anybody forget that Flare is supposed to launch like next month or so? They said June, give or take 2 to 4 weeks. So it could be June, could be July, but we're coming up on it really quickly, and I think that's exciting. I mean, there is a lot of utility to be brought to this digital asset space that never existed before in just a month or so. That's pretty exciting. Here we see an update from Michael Val 5 Links, and this is an update on the Diem coin. Yesterday, I made a video where we talked about the idea, could Diem, in fact, protocol be built as the central bank private ledger on top of the XRP ledger open source technology? And the reality is, it is not. I've had a couple messages where people have said that the Diem protocol is exactly that. It is a Diem protocol. And what I would say there is that, so the next point of speculation would be, would we see that back end interoperable with the XRP ledger as we would, let's say, an example of the XDC token and the Quarter platform and the Quarter settler, right? So I think if we're going to see a relationship between the two, it would be back end is what it's looking like now. So we don't have to worry about it being built on top of. It is its own standalone platform, but it, I believe, will need to be interoperable with. That's pretty sure about that. If central banks are building a private ledger for on top of the XRP ledger for their digital dollars, and Diem is going to be eventually taking the placeholder Diem token down when the Federal Reserve issues a central bank digital dollar, I'm pretty sure the two will need to be interoperable. All right, looking here, we see Input Output Hong Kong, one of the companies behind Cardano blockchain, today announced the launch of first testnet for Cardano's Alonzo upgrade. Yeah. So look, Cardano is making some major strides. I mean, they're really hitting a stride here. And shout out to Charles Hoskinson and all the work he's been putting in. No doubt about it. This is really interesting, seeing all of this cracking down from China. China is getting serious about cracking down on cryptocurrency mining. It's yet another warning sign that Bitcoin could soon be on shaky grounds. With officials preparing for a crackdown, the effects on the digital token could be significant. Now, I just want to say very quickly here, we know that Chris Larsen came out and created a call to action for Bitcoin to actually switch from proof of work to proof of stake. And I've said this on the channel since then. But one has to wonder, because I've floated a long time ago that I think Bitcoin is going to get hit with some kind of carbon tax credit, right? Because you're going to get hit with, or some, not credit, but carbon footprint tax. You're going to get hit with that because it's so energy consumption wise. It's using a lot of energy, right? So they're going to have something there to impose on top of the miners, I would imagine, and if not the holders as well. And for me, that's where the call to action to switch to proof of stake comes in. And one has to wonder, will regulations that come in and affect proof of work and mining in general, will it be regulation that forces proof of work to be proof of stake? And this is the push for that before it actually gets here in the form of regulation. We don't know, but it feels like something big is coming here. Now, this is really obviously it's Julia Chatterley. She knows this space extremely well. She's really brilliant. And she really, she pushed Anthony Pompliano a little harder and he broke and couldn't answer. She was a little softer here, but nevertheless still pushed. I want you to hear her as she approaches it a couple times and ask him, are you sure this is the best or fastest tech? I'm paraphrasing, but let's hear her ask this question and listen to Michael Saylor's response, and then I want to share something with you.
There will be those that look at this and say, but give me the investment case relative to other next generation cryptocurrencies in that regard. What's superior about Bitcoin protocol relative to others?
Bitcoin is the dominant crypto asset network. And if you want a long duration asset that's going to last for 100 years, you need to completely decentralize it and make it permissionless. And you need to also thermodynamically embed it in the firmament of the world. And so the architecture of Bitcoin ensures that it will be embedded in the reality of the laws of physics because it uses energy. And it also ensures that it will be politically supported because there are actually facilities and political jurisdictions that are supported by those governments And in the absence of the Bitcoin mining operations, which provide security to this asset, we wouldn't have the political support, nor will we have the link to physical reality and thermodynamic soundness necessary for us to make long-term bets over the course of years and decades.
Okay, before she responds, wow. I mean, that sounded like me when someone called on me in school and I didn't really study. And then I just babble for 5 minutes until they tell me to put my hand down and stop talking. Listen, here's what I can say. I don't know of any governments around the world that have embraced Bitcoin. In fact, it's been quite the opposite. All the conversation and the narrative is that Bitcoin is anti-bank, anti-government, anti-establishment, and it scares the living hell out of all the governments around the world. So there is that. Now listen to Julia's response here.
It's a long time since I studied thermodynamics. I was just trying to process what that means in terms of Bitcoin. But use the word dominant here. Do you mean just in terms of size and scale? Because to go back to your point about .com stocks, I mean, everyone thought Yahoo was going to be the winner, and actually in the end it was Google and Amazon. So how do you know you're betting on the right horse at this moment?
And there she's asking the question because she already knows the answer. Bitcoin is not the answer for the new financial system. It is not the answer for the internet of value. Does that mean it doesn't have value? No, of course not. Does that mean it won't be around long term? Of course not. But she's acknowledging here that, AOL was one of the first ones out of the gate. Yahoo was one of the first ones out of the gate. But where's AOL today? Well, it doesn't exist now, does it? And Bitcoin is the first of its kind that showed the world what is possible with digital assets. Listen to his response here.
Well, Amazon is the fastest network to grow to $1 trillion in market value in the history of the world.
Yeah, but back then we thought Yahoo was going to be the winner. That's my point. We didn't know back then necessarily that Amazon was going to be the winner. I don't understand today why we can be so sure that Bitcoin's the winner. I'm just asking.
There's not
question.
really.
Help me understand.
There's no historic precedent for a network that got to hundreds of billions of dollars that was 50 times bigger than its next best competitor ever failing.
That just flat out isn't true. It just flat out isn't true. Okay. Sears isn't here anymore. AOL's not here anymore. There's too many examples. I couldn't even record a tape long enough to show you all the examples, let alone I'm going to go ahead and wrap it right there because you don't need to hear anything else that he's saying because it is really not sound. And I just want to show you that Michael Saylor, God bless him, monsoon of respect. He is an extremely wealthy guy and he has been through the trenches. Matter of fact, back in the .com era, if you want to look at the losers club and who the biggest losers were during the .com era, Groucho Marx, the famous actor comedian, said one time that he'd never want to be a part of a club that would have him as a member. The members of this club know exactly how he felt. These 20 victims of the tech bubble, as well as Mediaplex's Greg Raffman, and are among others those who have been and had their paper fortune shredded by 10 figures over the past 18 months during that time back in 2001. The biggest loser, MicroStrategy's Michael Saylor, who saw a staggering $13.53 billion vanish back in 2001. So if you're laying your hat at his feet, I tell you, this is a guy who's not afraid to lose. And now he's still very, very successful. So there's that side too. But I think you should know, full disclosure, this was one of the biggest losers of the .com era. Moving on. Michael Val, 5 Links Hall of Famer here, and shout out to Bond Crypt for that last piece of news there too. White House reviewing crypto regulation to ensure traders can Dogecoin to their heart's content. Oh boy. I tell you something, beyond the Dogecoin reference, I just simply want to say here that isn't it good that the White House is even acknowledging on a public level that they're looking and reviewing crypto regulations? Something will happen. Remember, things move very slowly until they move very fast. Something will happen quickly when they do this stuff because it's too much of a narrative every day in the public eye. SEC begins formal review of Fidelity Skybridge Bitcoin ETF applications. I would keep an eye on these ETFs because we have yet to see one approved here in the United States, and we know Canada is well underway with their ETFs. But if we start getting those here, I think that is going to be an enormous sign that Bitcoin, whatever regulations come down the pipe, they're going to be okay, and it's going to be long term. And I'm waiting to see a Bitcoin ETF get approved myself. All right, so here we see big bank CEO testimony on crypto. This is Anton Schutz, President and Chief Investment Officer of Menden Capital Advisors, and he tells you straight up what's here. Listen
Chief
to this.
Investment Officer of Menden Capital Advisors. Anton, it's great to see you again. Let me just start with your reaction to these big bank CEOs on the Hill today, causing barely a ripple in the public consciousness and kind of begging but also warning about access to crypto. What does that tell you as an investor?
Well, I think, first of all, it says that the banks are in a pretty good place and that they are not the poster child of any problems out there.
Like they were in 2008.
So I think that the fact that the hearings went as well as they did, I think just takes pressure off and lets them conduct business. And they were actually part of the solution, not part of the problem in terms of, speeding money to small businesses. In terms of the crypto space, that's a really challenging question. And I think that at the end of the day, digital currencies are going to be really, really important.
And that's what you need to hear right there. That is what's going on in the banking sector. They understand the narrative is clear. No one is confused other than the regulations. But they all want to offer it. They all want to hold it because they understand. We talked about this last week too. There's a correction coming in the markets. And everyone wants somewhere to go that's some high ground while that correction happens. Taking a look here, this is an update from Jeremy Hogan here. SEC's motion to strike Ripple's fair notice defense is the most important motion of the case thus far. And look whose name is on the reply brief. It's Benjamin Hanur, I think it is, the new lawyer out of Chicago. We know that a couple of those lawyers were brought in to the SEC, and a couple of those, along with Benjamin, specialize in negotiations for settlement and things of that nature. So this gets more interesting by the day. And here we go. I have to say that a follow-up here, Jeremy Hogan also highlighted here, he just read it briefly, but already see that it mischaracterizes the Kick Interactive's affirmative defense as an up to defense, when in fact it was a void for vagueness defense, and even the judge didn't strike it from the pleading at this stage of the litigation. Good luck, SEC. Oh man, where would we be without Jeremy Hogan in this whole melee's of mess with this SEC Ripple lawsuit? Big shout out to him. This one here again from Michael Val, 5link, State of Crypto, what regulators said at Consensus 2021. We've covered this a little bit, what's going on, but there's a lot of information and interviews from Consensus. Shout out to CoinDesk there. And it basically says they want to get more involved. And we do know that, right? They talk about CBDCs and innovation from Leo Brainerd. Governor Mark Gordon from Wyoming revealed he owns crypto. International Monetary Fund Chief Tommaso Monsini Grafali, who basically said that, the world would hypothetically be better off if we had multiple reserve currencies, not just the US dollar. He was responding to a question about China's digital yuan. Cynthia Loomis, we know, is crypto-friendly and constantly working to really spearhead efforts for crypto legislation in Congress. Hester Peirce also talked about the growth of digital assets might force the Securities Exchange Commission to modernize its custody rule more quickly than it might otherwise. And look, we've talked about the fact that the SEC needs to make some adjustments. I do believe that's a big part of why Gary Gensler is there, because he's so well versed on the space. We may not like what he does in every aspect, but I do believe that's why he's there. Coming down here quickly to skip around here, Christian Catalini, we know the Diem co-creator, chief economist of an MIT professor, said the original Facebook-led vision for Libra stablecoin project was naive. Yes, I'll say that, to say the least, let alone it wasn't worth wiping your fanny on, because nobody around the world was going to accept Libra token as a basket of multiple currencies around the world like the SDR. That dog didn't hunt at all. So much so they had to change the name from Libra to Diem. But now we know they're coming back to the United States. They are building on their own protocol, as we found out overnight. And we must wait and find out what goes on, because I can't tell you, I mean, why is Diem just a placeholder for the U.S. dollar? Well, I believe because they're going to use that to figure out the ups and downs, the pros and cons, and then they're going to release the dollar on the directly on the Facebook platform, and then you're going to have 2.8 million people using a digital dollar immediately. That's what's going to happen. There we go. Gary Gensler says that the chairman of the U.S. SEC said he wants to see regulation to protect consumers built into operations of cryptocurrency exchanges. Well, Gary, how about having some consumer protection when it comes to XRP holders and not waiting 8 years? And let's get this case resolved, because the reality is Jay Clayton is dereliction of duty, and William Hinman as well. So it's a mess all the way around. And now it's your mess. So let's get this thing cleaned up, Gary. All right, looking here, Gary Gensler goes on to say, basically speaking at a hearing at the House Financial Services Committee, we talked about this. We did cover it. I just want to say, just to highlight here, he measures the protect users of crypto exchanges need to be put in place at the source. We could work with Congress to try and bring investor protection where these sometimes commodities, sometimes securities are trading on the platforms. He added that he hoped to put it in place protection similar to those governing activity on the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. So look to those things. We do that often here on the channel. We look to those areas and try to superimpose the template of what is already in the conventional market over top of the digital asset space, so we can kind of see where people are, market regulators and governments are leaning into. Here we see the epic war between Ripple and the SEC has entered a new chapter. They're now wanting to see the communications for all the lobbying they're doing on Congress, on the Hill. And now the SEC wants to see all the evidence of Ripple's lobbying efforts. This is more evidence to me that SEC is struggling for a case here. That's what's going on. Today's Ripple price production is bullish as the market has spiked lower over the past hours and currently trades above 85 cents at about 88 cents or 85 cents is where we were. We're at 86 cents right now. Looking here, I want to remind everybody from Dark Defender and many of the other technical experts that we've talked to that these price targets and supports are still in play. So we're at 86 cents. We could see support at 80 cents. If we lose that support, we could see it again at 75 and again at 65 cents. We experienced this last weekend as well, right? So here we see also the upside targets. We want to be above 126 to make our way to 133, 175, 230 plus, and so on and so on and so on. The $13 to $27 from CoinsKid. All this stuff is still in play, but we got to watch for these rollover support lines, because if we see the price continue to roll over, lose a little steam going into a holiday weekend, we could see even lower lows. And you know what that means at my house? Buying times here again. And that's not financial advice, and neither is this, but you should check out Link to Private Investing Made Simple. Kraken is on the board, Uphold's on the board, and keep an eye out. You may even see some Ripple pop up. None of this stuff lasts long. If you're an accredited investor, you better move quick on this stuff, because it does not take long for it to go. All right, that's going to do it for me. Hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, and share with somebody you know. Make sure you check out all the links in the description box and the comment section. By the way, I Trust Capital is the best gold crypto IRA on the planet, bar none. And I'll catch all of you on the next one.